Welcome to Horror Year, where every story is a journey into the unknown. If you're brave enough to face your darkest fears and uncover the most chilling tales, you've come to the right place. So, dim the lights, turn up the volume, and subscribe to Horror Year. Your journey into terror begins now. An organization of paranormal investigators made the decision to go to the old Baker House, one of the most infamous locations in rural West Virginia, in the fall of 2015. The mansion, which dates back to the late 1800s, has been deserted for many years. Though no remains were ever discovered, rumors about disappearances connected to the property spread. Particularly at night, the majority of the town's residents knew better than to approach it. Nevertheless, the five-person crew was committed to finding the truth. They moved under cover of darkness toward the collapsing house, equipped with thermal scanners, EVP recorders, and cameras. With a loud thud, the massive wooden door locked them inside as soon as they reached the threshold. A shiver ran through the gathering, but none wanted to acknowledge how scared they already were. They heard intermittent distant sounds and creaks over the course of hours, but nothing noteworthy until the clock struck midnight. "Did you hear that?" an investigator named Jake murmured. The others froze, listening intently to his actions. They fainted, but then heard the sound of footsteps clearly and louder. These were not, however, just any footsteps. These came from upstairs, a place none of them had gone before, and they were slow and deliberate. One of them nervously remarked, "Maybe it's just the house settling." But nobody laughed. Gathering in a group, the squad ascended the huge staircase gently. The footsteps halted as they got to the second story. Before them extended a long, poorly lighted hallway, the end of which vanished into darkness. They made the poor decision to separate. Sarah and Jake turned left, and the others turned right. Sarah's grip on the camera trembled, the red recording light standing out against the unsettling darkness. With the exception of one, every corner they turned and door they unlocked revealed vacant chambers. An ancient wooden door at the far end of the corridor creaked open by itself, revealing a tiny bedroom lit by the moon. There was no breeze, yet the ancient rocking chair in the middle of the room rocked gently back and forth. With a backward step, Sarah mumbled, "I don't like this." The door behind them slammed shut, sealing them within the room before Jake could reply. The crackling of their radios went unanswered. Fear took hold. They pounded on the door, but it remained in place. The rocking chair then came to a standstill. There was an unbearable silence for a while. The temperature suddenly dropped. With her eyes wide with fear, Sarah retreated from the chair, revealing her breath. Jake angled the camera so that he could see the chair through the lens, and there it was. A barely discernible figure sitting in the chair. The figure was faceless, its features a dark vacuum where they should have been. With trembling hands, Jake muttered, "Sarah, we have to go." However, the figure got up before they could move. As it gradually rotated to face them, the temperature in the room plummeted even more, though they were unable to see any details in the darkness. There was a deep growl in the room as the air seemed to get thicker. The creature suddenly sprang toward them, traveling at an impossible pace. There were flickering lights. After dropping the camera, Jake vanished from view. Hours had passed, and Jake and Sarah were huddled in the corner, their faces pale with terror, when the rest of the party eventually located them. They were silent for days on end. Though the tape they shot was never made public, stories circulated about what it appeared to show. Changing, indistinct shots of a dark figure, footsteps resonating in deserted hallways, and something ominous lurking just beyond the camera. The team never went back to the Baker House, and they won't discuss the real events of that evening. A few claim to still hear the house's call in their dreams, a whisper from the other side of terror, waiting to claim its next victims. Not every interaction leaves you unharmed. Certain dreams persist into the conscious state. Nestled among other seemingly regular houses in the tranquil suburbs of Pennsylvania, it went mostly overlooked. The weathered exterior spoke of bygone eras, and the building was hardly seen by the surrounding community. However, a dark secret simmered within, just waiting to be uncovered. Jenny and Mark, a young couple, were captivated to the house's rustic appeal and moved in 2009. Everything was fine until little indications of trouble started to show. Even though they seldom went upstairs, Jenny would frequently hear faint footsteps in the attic above her. Mark assured her it was nothing to worry about, brushing it off as the home settling. But Jenny's sense of being watched persisted. After experiencing odd things for months, like objects moving on their own and flickering shadows, Jenny made the decision one night to check the attic when Mark was away. With a torch in hand, she braved the rickety stairway. Her heart raced as the tiny beam of light skimmed across the dusty corners. Then she noticed it. Hidden beneath a stack of abandoned items was an ancient, decomposing leather-bound journal. A man named Richard, who resided in the house more than a century ago, was the owner of the diary. Jenny became aware that Richard had been a part of something very terrifying as she read. He conducted sinister rituals and had an obsession with the occult in an attempt to conquer death. His entries became more and more bizarre, detailing voices he heard and eerie dark people observing him. The final few entries described his grand experiment. He intended to imprison a soul inside the house. It grew very cold in the attic as Jenny finished reading the last section. All of a sudden, she felt as though something was suffocating her in the dark. Breathless and scared, she dropped the diary and hurried downstairs. She informed Mark what she had discovered when he got back. Despite his skepticism, he consented to go out for the evening in order to calm her down. When they came back the following morning, their things were strewn all over the floor. The doors they'd locked were ajar. There was writing on the wall that looked like soot that said, "You are not alone." Jenny and Mark left within a week, terrified for their life. Even now, the house is deserted, and the neighborhood avoids it because they hear rumors of a sinister spirit around it. There are many who claim that Richard's shadow is still there, waiting to trap another soul. Not all horror tales are made up.